Imagine a goddess with skin as dark as the night sky,
Oh, wow.
wearing a garland of severed human skulls, her tongue extended to drink the blood of demons.
It's an intensely dark visual.
It is. She is terrifying.
Yeah.
But she is also a mother. Tonight we explore the ancient legend of the Hindu goddess Kali and the terrifying psychological power of your own suppressed rage.
Yeah, today we are looking at this really fascinating stack of sources.
We've got everything from deep research papers on Jungian psychology and clinical personality disorders
Right.
to these incredibly detailed analyses of ancient Vedic texts. And our mission on this deep dive is to bridge those two worlds.
Exactly, because we want to figure out why the psychological concept of the shadow self and the act of embracing our own repressed anger might not just be some abstract intellectual exercise.
Right. It might be the absolute, literal only way to protect ourselves from toxic people in our daily lives.
And it really is a profound intersection we are exploring tonight. We are venturing into a space where, ancient mythological horror directly mirrors the modern invisible architecture of our own minds.
Yeah.
Because we spend so much of our lives actively avoiding the dark, trying to live in this bright, sanitized version of human psychology.
We really do.
But the sources we are looking at suggest that this avoidance is exactly what leaves us vulnerable.
Exactly. We are actively stepping away from the whole good vibes only culture tonight.
Definitely.
Because to understand why you must sometimes awaken your own darkest impulses, we first need to look at an ancient evil.
Right.
An evil that could not be stopped by conventional goodness.
Right.
Not by light or compromise or,
Yeah.
Peace.
It required something else entirely.
Yeah. We have to look at the blood-soaked battlefield of ancient Hindu mythology.
The story begins with a threat that basically defies all standard logic of conflict resolution.
It does.
It begins with an asura, a demon, named Raktabicha. And, to really grasp the psychological metaphor here, we have to look closely at his specific power.
Right, because Raktabaja was not your standard adversary, just like swinging a sword.
Yeah.
He possessed this horrifying, deeply unnatural, and frankly infuriating power.
Oh, absolutely infuriating.
The mythology states that whenever he was wounded in battle, whenever a single drop of his blood fell and struck the earth, it didn't just seep into the soil.
No.
The exact moment the blood made contact with the ground, it instantly spawned a perfect, fully formed clone of the demon himself.
It is a terrifying visual. I mean, picture the sheer, exhausting despair of the forces of good trying to combat this entity.
It would be endless.
Exactly. Every strike you land, every wound you inflict in the name of righteousness, it only multiplies your problem.
Right. If you cut him once, there too.
Yeah. And if you strike him 100 times, there is an army. He is an unstoppable, geometrically multiplying evil. So the harder the conventional gods fought him, using their standard, honorable rules of engagement.
The more of him there were to fight?
Precisely.
Wait, I want to pause right here. Okay, let's unpack this.
Go for it.
Because this isn't just an ancient story of swords and demons.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to think about this dynamic in the context of your own modern life.
Oh, yeah.
Think about Raktabija's cloning blood as a direct analogy for trying to reason with toxic people.
That is spot on.
Because we all know these individuals, the chronic manipulators, the narcissists.
Yes. The colleague who subtly undermines you, or the family member who turns every single holiday into a referendum on your character.
Exactly. Let's say you have an issue with them, a standard, rational grievance.
Right.
You try to engage with them, you try to fight the conflict with logic or with conventional fairness.
By calmly explaining your feelings using those I statements.
Just like polite society taught you to do.
Right.
But what actually happens, the problem just multiplies. You bring up a missed deadline, and suddenly they're bringing up a mistake you made 3 years ago.
Oh, always.
You try to explain why their words hurt you, and instantly they play the victim, making the whole argument about your tone.
Yes, because every concession you make, every logical argument you present is just a drop of blood hitting the ground.
It just creates a new angle for them to attack you from.
That is the perfect modern parallel.
Yeah.
You cannot defeat them by playing by the standard rules of engagement.
Right.
Because they simply do not adhere to those rules. The ancient gods were failing because they were applying conventional methods of justice and warfare to an unconventional, asymmetrical threat.
They were literally creating their own destruction.
Exactly. By fighting him the way they had always been taught to fight.
Which brings us to the birth of the Dark Mother.
Yes.
The gods are losing. The universe is being completely overrun by millions of Raktabijas. And from the pure, concentrated, unadulterated rage of the warrior goddess Durga,
Kali emerges.
yeah, Kali emerges. And she was not born from peace. She was not born from a desire for harmony or a negotiated settlement.
No. The texts describe Kali emerging from Durga's furrowed brow. The situation required something much darker, much more primal than the standard divine attributes.
Right.
Kali is the embodiment of time, destruction, and absolute ruthlessness. She is the most terrifying and fierce manifestation of the Divine Mother.
And when she stepped onto that battlefield, she understood exactly what had to be done.
She didn't hesitate.
She didn't pull out a clipboard and try to reason with Raktabicha.
No.
She didn't try to wound him conventionally. To stop the cloning, Kali had to embrace absolute violence.
Yeah.
As the other gods struck Raktabicha, Kali moved across the battlefield with this terrifying, blurring speed.
Just incredible speed.
Her tongue extended, ruthlessly drinking his blood before it could ever touch the earth.
Wow.
She literally consumed the evil to stop it from spreading.
She contained the contagion through sheer terrifying force. I mean, she became the monster necessary to devour the monster. And what's fascinating here is how perfectly, and I mean clinically perfectly, this myth maps onto the psychology of Carl Jung and the concept of the shadow self.
Right, and we hear shadow self thrown around a lot online.
We do.
Usually just as a buzzword for being a bit edgy.
All right.
But our sources dive deep into the actual Jungian psychology here.
You do.
Can you give us, like, the blinkest level definition of what the shadow actually is?
Absolutely. So Carl Jung proposed that the human psyche has different layers. The persona is the mask you wear for society.
Yeah.
It's the polite, accommodating, professional version of you. The shadow, on the other hand, is the unconscious part of your personality that contains all the traits your conscious ego refuses to identify with.
So it's like a storage room.
Yeah, it's the psychological basement where you shove everything society told you was unacceptable when you were a child.
So things like selfishness, aggression, jealousy,
Right.
and anger.
Exactly. From a very young age, we are relentlessly conditioned to be polite. If a child gets angry that their toy was taken, they are told, don't be mean, share, be a good boy or girl.
We are taught that anger is inherently bad,
That it is a toxic emotion, a
Right.
failure of emotional intelligence.
a sign that you have lost control.
Right. We are constantly instructed to always take the high road, to turn the other cheek, to be the bigger person.
So what happens to that natural biological anger?
It doesn't just evaporate.
No.
It gets shoved down deep into the shadow self.
We are practically suffocated by this mandate of relentless positivity and endless compromise.
We really are.
We're told to smile through the disrespect.
Yeah.
But here is the major shift in our understanding, based on the clinical research we read.
Yeah.
Repressing that anger doesn't make us safer. It doesn't elevate us morally.
Not at all.
Actually, constantly trying to be the bigger person just makes us incredibly easy targets for toxic people.
Precisely. We've transitioned from the blood-soaked battlefields of ancient mythology to the invisible battlefields of modern life.
Right. The office, the family dinner table.
The intimate relationship. And on these modern battlefields, the multiplying demons of the myth exist today as chronic manipulators.
Yeah.
But unlike the ancient gods, modern society leaves us completely defenseless against them.
Because society has convinced us that our best weapon is actually a flaw.
Exactly. Manipulators and emotional predators actively prey on that exact politeness. They rely on your societal conditioning to keep you from fighting back.
It's a brilliant, terrifying trap. I was reading through the clinical personality disorder papers in our stack, and I realized something.
What's that?
We often think of someone devoid of anger as a saint, but it's more like having an autoimmune disease for your personality.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Because your immune system, which in this case is your anger, is biologically designed to attack foreign invaders that cross your boundaries.
Right.
But society has convinced you that your own immune system is the disease.
So you suppress it.
Right. You take psychological immunosuppressants by constantly being polite and accommodating, and it leaves you completely open to psychological viruses.
That is a phenomenal way to look at it. They ironically strip us of our natural psychological defense mechanisms by convincing us that setting a firm, angry boundary makes us the villain.
I want to build on that. Imagine a house, a really beautiful house,
Okay.
but it has absolutely no locks on the doors.
Wow. Yeah.
It's open, it's welcoming, and society tells you it's quote-unquote good. But practically speaking, it just invites robbers inside.
It does.
Which makes me want to ask this driving question.
Yeah.
Are we confusing being a good person with simply being defenseless?
That is such a crucial question.
But hold on, let me play devil's advocate here.
Please do.
Because I know what you are probably thinking right now. If I just unleash my inner collie at my boss during a team meeting because they crossed a boundary,
Right.
or I scream at my partner because they were passive-aggressive, I'm not protecting my peace.
No.
I'm getting fired, or I'm getting divorced.
Exactly.
Isn't this just giving people a fancy psychological excuse to be abusive and throw temper tantrums?
That is the crucial pivot point, and it's a very common misunderstanding of Jungian psychology.
Clarify that for us.
Letting your shadow unconsciously possess you, which results in a screaming match or a petty, vindictive temper tantrum, is exactly what we're trying to avoid.
Because that is just blind reactive rage.
Right. What the myth of Kali and modern clinical psychology advocate for is the conscious integration of the shadow.
Okay.
It is the concept of sacred rage.
Sacred rage. Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the source material makes a massive distinction between toxic anger and protective rage.
It really does.
Kali didn't destroy the universe. She destroyed the specific demon threatening it.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, we need to understand the actual mechanics of this transformation.
Yeah.
How do you move from a repressed doormat to a screaming toddler and finally to the embodied energy of Kali?
Right? How do we actually do that?
It happens through a specific mechanism. When a manipulator crosses your line, your body generates anger. Adrenaline spikes.
Your heart beats faster.
Yeah. But instead of suppressing that somatic feeling because you're afraid of it, or instantly exploding because you can't handle it, sacred rage asks you to pause.
Okay, so you feel the heat, but you don't immediately throw the fire.
Right. You recognize the anger as a biological alarm system. It is simply information.
It is telling you a boundary has been breached.
Yes. You then channel that intense, localized adrenaline into a cold, firm, unyielding boundary.
Wow.
Sacred rage is not about mindless destruction. It is not about losing control. It is entirely about fiercely protecting yourself and everything you love.
Right.
It is a highly focused, highly localized, terrifying energy.
So, practically speaking, what does that actually look like?
Well, it's not screaming.
Right. It's looking that Raktabija in your life in the eye, tapping into that dark, heavy energy of the shadow self and saying, no further.
Yes.
You do not get to cross this line, and if you try, there will be devastating consequences for you.
Exactly. It's the absolute refusal to concede another inch. It's the refusal to play their game.
You stop trying to explain your feelings, because explaining your feelings is dropping blood on the ground.
You just build a wall.
And you have to mean it.
You really do. The mechanism only works if you genuinely stop caring if they think you are being impolite.
Right.
Because the manipulator relies on your fear of being seen as the bad guy. You are probably listening to this thinking, but I don't want to be a mean person.
Which is exactly the trap.
Yes. You've been sold a false dichotomy that you are either a completely selfless, boundaryless doormat, or you are an evil villain.
We need to introduce a third option.
The fierce protector.
The terrifying mother protecting her child. But in this case, the child is your own well-being, your own peace, your own mind.
Exactly.
Which brings us back to that really uncomfortable driving question. Are we confusing being a good person with simply being defenseless?
That is the pivotal realization our sources push us toward. When we equate goodness with a lack of boundaries, we are offering ourselves up for consumption.
We are.
Manipulators do not respect the open door, they exploit it. They view your endless forgiveness not as a virtue, but as a renewable resource for their own ego.
Every time you swallow your anger to keep the peace, you are letting another drop of Raktabija's blood hit the floor.
You are multiplying their power over you.
So the only logical step for survival, the only way out of the trap, is to merge the ancient ruthlessness of Kali with our modern psychological boundaries.
You have to introduce friction.
And the moment you are willing to embrace that role, the moment you are willing to say, fine, I will be the villain in your story if it means protecting my peace.
Their power evaporates.
The cloning stops.
The blood never hits the ground.
Wow.
This is a truth that makes polite society very uncomfortable, but it is clinically necessary for survival.
Sometimes being a good person cannot defeat a monster.
Oh, goodness. As we define it conventionally, is simply the wrong tool for the job.
We've taken a profound journey tonight.
We really have.
We started on an ancient, blood-soaked battlefield with a multiplying demon, and we brought that fight right into the center of your own psyche.
Yeah.
We have dismantled the dangerous myth that politeness is always a virtue.
Absolutely.
We have seen how being endlessly accommodating just turns you into a defenseless victim against the narcissists and manipulators of the modern world.
And hopefully we have reframed the darkness within you.
Right.
That suppressed shadow energy, that inner Kali, is not something to be ashamed of.
It is not a flaw in your character, and it is not a psychological disease.
No. When accessed with purpose, your anger is an act of profound love for yourself.
It is the fierce guardian that ensures you survive the invisible battlefields of modern life.
Exactly.
It is the only thing that can drink the blood of the demons that plague you.
Which leaves us with a necessary and perhaps uncomfortable reflection.
Right.
Think about your own life right now. Think about the relationships that drain you, the environments that make you feel small.
Yeah.
If focused anger is the ultimate guardian of the soul, what part of your own life are you leaving completely unguarded right now, simply because you're afraid of being perceived as the bad guy?
Do not be afraid of the dark parts of your soul. Sometimes your rage is the only thing that can save you.